Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. In today's video, I'm gonna be comparing two of my newest eyeshadow palettes to each other. As you guys know, I already uploaded videos of the new Jeffree Star eyeshadow palettes I have, and I also uploaded individual tutorials of the two palettes we're talking about today. One of them is the new Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette, and the other one is the Anastasia Beverly Carli Bybel palette. The Carli Bybel palette retails for £46, which is on par with Anastasia's other 14 pan eyeshadow palettes. It contains 0.75 grams of product, which totals to 10.5 grams of product for the whole eyeshadow palette. When I first saw it, I thought that was a really small amount of product. So I went on and checked my other Anastasia eyeshadow palettes, and it turns out that the Modern Renaissance palette actually only had 0.7 grams of product per pan, and the Soft Glam palette had 0.74 grams of product per pan, so you actually get more in this one than you got in those. It also has 18 months shelf life, which is the same as the Norvina and the Soft Glam palette did. The Huda Beauty eyeshadow palette has 24 months shelf life, which is more than any of Anastasia's eyeshadow palettes have, and you get 19.7 grams of product in this one. This eyeshadow palette does retail for £58, which is really close to the £60 mark, so it is a really expensive palette, but you get almost double as much product as you get in the Anastasia one, even though the Anastasia's one now contains more product than before. So you do get 4 additional shades. I think the most interesting ones of those additional shades are probably these two, these turquoise shades. They're just so stunning. I'm not gonna lie, they were the reason I wanted this palette so much and as soon as I can. The rest of the shades are absolutely stunning as well. You get some berry shades, you get some neutrals, golds, pinks. I think this palette is so satisfying to look at. It's so gorgeous. The Huda Beauty palette was made in Italy. The Anastasia palette was made in the USA as always. The packaging on both eyeshadow palette is absolutely stunning. The Carli Bybel one is a little bit 3D. It does have a textured feel to it, and it looks like it has lots and lots of diamonds on the top. The inside of it is a white cardboard packaging. It's really good quality, really well made. I actually quite like that it's white. I just feel like it looks less dirty than the black ones normally do. So yeah, I really like the packaging of this palette. And Huda's one is probably the most beautiful eyeshadow palette I have ever had. I always love her packaging. I think her packaging is just so aesthetically pleasing every time, but I absolutely adore this one. And I'm not gonna lie, I really like that it's plastic, because that means you can always just wipe it off and have a clean eyeshadow palette. I think that's just so important, at least for me. I'm gonna now include some quick swatches for you of these two eyeshadow palettes. The bottom ones are gonna be the Carli Bybel swatches, and the top ones are the Huda Beauty swatches. Now, one thing I have to mention is that I swatched the Carli Bybel palette in order, and then I tried to match it to whatever shade looks the most similar to it from the Mercury palette. Now, that wasn't always possible, of course, because Huda's got slightly different shades and she has 4 additional shades. So when I didn't have a shade matching that one, I tried to swatch something as close as possible, or something that I knew is not gonna have anything similar to it, if that makes sense. Other than having extra shades, I think most of the colors look extremely similar, and that basically is the reason why I sat down to film this video today, because I wanted to test out how similar they are. Honestly, when you first look at the Huda Beauty palette, you think it's nothing like the Anastasia one, but when you cover the 2 turquoise shades, you actually realize that there are some serious similarities here. Now obviously the amount of shades you can include in an eyeshadow palette are very limited, but if I would pull out a random eyeshadow palette from Juvia's Place or Jeffree Star, I wouldn't get that same feeling. So for me it was really interesting that these two very similar looking eyeshadow palettes came out around the same time. I'm not saying it's because anyone copied anyone, I think it's just because these are the trendy colors right now. And I wanted to film this video to show you the similarities, because some of you might not want to support Huda or might not want to support Anastasia or Carli, and it might be also important for you where the palette was made, what the price point is, what the shelf life is, how much product you get. So I decided to compare them to each other because I feel like they are similar enough that you don't need both of them. You can purchase one or the other. So this video is here to help you decide which one you should buy. Without further ado, I'm gonna now jump into creating this eyeshadow look to show you how these two eyeshadow palettes perform. And once we're done with that, I'm gonna tell you my honest opinion of which one I think you should pick up. Okay, so let's jump right into creating the makeup look. I have eyeshadow primer on already. I use the same MAC paint pot in the shade Painterly that I always do. And as you could tell from the video already, we are going to be creating a quite simple eye makeup look just to compare how pigmented and blendable these two eyeshadow palettes are. Obviously, they are not dupes of each other, so you don't have an unlimited number of looks that you can create with both eyeshadow palettes, but I chose the shades that are present in both palettes. I'm gonna do the Anastasia palette on this side of the face, and the first shade I'm gonna pick up is the shade Chai, and I'm just gonna apply the shade Chai on my crease and just blend it. That is a more taupey shade in this palette. That's obviously even better for creating that depth and illusion of a shadow, but we don't have that shade in the Huda Beauty palette, so that's why I decided to use this quite warm brown shade. I obviously add a little bit under my eyes as well. And like I said, on the Huda side we have a shade similar to this, and that one is called Karma. So I take some of Karma and I just start applying it. As you can see, this is much warmer and I think it's much more pigmented as well. I think once you blend it out a little bit, they start looking much more similar. The Huda one is still a lot more red, which is quite interesting because in the pan it doesn't look red at all. I think because after this we are gonna be working with orangey and reddish shades, that's gonna reduce the difference between the two sides, because this side is gonna start turning more red as well, so I'm not really worried about that one. But like I said before, these are not dupes, so I don't expect to be able to create the exact same look. What's more important right now is to check the pigmentation and the blendability of these shades. The next thing I do, I take a small pencil brush and I dip it into this red shade here, and I am going to add that red shade to my outer corner because that is gonna be our dark shade of the day. Once we're done with the red shade, we are gonna be taking that orangey corally shade and diffuse it a little bit, but right now we are just applying the red on the outer V. Thanks God I don't get a lot of fallout from this shade. Normally when I use pencil brushes I get a lot of fallout. I'm really hoping I'm not going to today because I don't have any shadow shield on, as you can tell. So as you can see, I am applying this red shade basically all over. I'm gonna add some to the outer corner of the lower lash line, and I'm adding some to the outer half of the lid and basically all over my crease, and I just leave it like that without blending it for now. On the Huda side we have a shade called Hot Mess, which is not as red as this one, but I hope that because now we are going to mix this shade and this shade together, they are gonna end up being a similar shade to this one, which started out much more of a yellow base shade, and mixed with the red we got to this point. So I'm hoping that the mixture of these two will produce something similar. Right now I definitely feel like this side is more muted and this side is more red, but as I said, we are gonna go back with another shade to blend this out. So I think by the end of this makeup look everything's gonna work just fine together, and we're gonna have something really similar. From the Carli Bybel palette, that shade is gonna be Cindy, which is a beautiful orangey corally shade. It's one of my favorites in this palette. I'm just using the same eye blender brush I used originally with the crease color, and I don't blend the middle of the shade, I just blend the edges. Obviously now the edge of your color is higher than it was, but this is such an effortless way of beautifully blending out a color. I'm taking some more and I diffuse the under eye part as well. Jumping back to the Huda side, she's got a similar shade called Utopia. We take some and just do the same, start blending out from the edges. This shade is very similar to the Anastasia version, but I feel like it's a little bit more vivid. The Anastasia one was definitely more muted than this. Now I'm taking a completely clean brush and I just blend out the edges of the shade we applied. Next I'm gonna do cut crease off screen, so I'm gonna be back in a second. Okay, so next we need to start setting this concealer, and to set it we're gonna use two different colors, one gold and one rose gold. From the Anastasia palette, the rose gold shade we use is gonna be Aura. And first I'm just gonna pick up some of the shade with my finger. I could be using a brush, but it's just much quicker and the color payoff is much better. To be able to finish it precisely though, I'm gonna pick up some with a brush now. This Aura shade is super pigmented and super creamy. The only problem is that because of that reason, you start getting a dent in the shade really quickly. But other than that, as you can see, it's beautiful and it's so shimmery and such good quality shadow. To do the same thing on the Huda Beauty side, I'm gonna take the shade Supernova. And again, I'm gonna start applying it with my finger. It is a relatively creamy shade for Huda. Her metallic shades are normally different than this. She had shades similar to this in the Desert Dusk palette. It's more of that foiled, velvety, pigmented color. I love when she does these shades. I don't know if you can tell, but now the two sides are looking much more similar than they were originally. The inner corner gold shade we use is going to be Mod, which is one of the prettiest, shiniest shades in this Anastasia palette. Now, Huda's got two gold shades. One of them is called Gold Glitch and the other one is called Galaxy. but I have a feeling that Galaxy is more like Bolly and the Carli Bybel palette. So I'm gonna go with Gold Glitch. Oh my, I don't know what happened, but suddenly this gold shade just turned so metallic. I wasn't expecting that because when I was originally swatching it and even when I first started applying it, it looked a lot more subtle. And we're almost done. As a very last step, I'm gonna go back a little bit more with the original shade and I'm gonna darken up the outer corner. Now I will do the same on the Huda side. And now I'm gonna go off camera and I'm gonna add some eyeliner, mascara, lipstick, all that, finish my makeup look, and then I will be back to tell you my final thoughts about these two palettes. Okay, so the makeup is completed. Now let's get back to talking about these two eyeshadow palettes. The Huda Beauty palette is obviously more expensive than the Anastasia Beverly Hills one. However, you do get 4 extra shades. Some of these shades are a little bit useless. The very last shade, once you swatch it and you actually start using it, looks almost identical to this shade. These two colors are almost identical when you use them. However, it is still, in my opinion, Huda's best palette so far. Finally, there is no concealer shade, there is no stupid glitter shade. I really hated those. You do get shades that have worse color payoff, but you don't get those really bad shades that you did in the Desert Dusk palette. So I honestly think that this is her best palette so far. I do really love this palette. Again, it's slightly more expensive than her previous palettes. I hope she's not gonna keep up with that trend and keep pushing the price higher and higher every single time. Carli's palette is the standard Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. A part of this one, I only have the original velvet packaging palettes, which I really love. I have all 4 of them and I absolutely love them. They did come out with a lot of palettes in this last 12 months, and this is the first palette I actually decided to pick up since Norvina, so that should say something. I do think that it's a gorgeous palette. It's just such a good combination of neutrals and a bit of color, but even the colors are so girly and so wearable. You can really wear all of these shades every single day if you want. There are a lot of different looks you can create, and I must say, even though my favorite eyeshadow palette is still the Modern Renaissance one, I think that the quality of the eyeshadows improved since that one. There is no dry chalky shade in this one. There are no significant fallouts. There are no shades with really bad pigmentation. Probably this shade called Mandala is the one that I was a bit like but other than that, the color payoff is amazing. Like this shade here, amazing, and this gold one as well is so good. Honestly, most of the mattes are pigmented, creamy, blendable. Is a gorgeous palette. Also, obviously, if you like Carli, you might want to support her by picking up her eyeshadow palette. If you have to choose one of these, I would say consider the price point. Obviously, the Huda one is significantly more expensive, even here in the UK, where the Anastasia palettes cost about £10 more than they do in the USA. Then you need to consider the additional colors you get, because in the Huda palette, obviously you get more shades than you do in the Anastasia palette. You can also consider which influencer you're liking. Obviously, some people are not a big fan of Huda. Some people might have a problem with Carli or Anastasia. I'm really not sure. They're mostly quite drama-free. Huda had some problems in the past, but like I said, it's completely up to you. As far as the quality of the shadows go, I feel like both palettes are an improvement to their previous ones. The packaging is gorgeous on both of them, as you can see. The Anastasia one comes with a brush, as always. The Huda one can come with a brush if you pick up the version that has the brushes with it, but you will need to pay even more. I think my eyeshadows turned out really similar. Maybe just that gold in the inner corner of the Huda one is popping a bit more, but other than that, I think they are really both gorgeous. So anyways, that's it for today, guys. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any of these two palettes. If you do, which one do you have? Which one do you prefer? Which one are you planning on buying in the future? If you haven't purchased either of them yet, I hope this video helped you to decide which one you should pick up, if any. If you enjoyed this video and found it useful, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. That would really help me out. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because I have tons of videos like this in the past and coming in the near future. I hope to see you guys in my next video. Until then, have a good time. I will see you very soon. Bye.